Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfic. This is the continuation of See You in the Morning. This will be Part 11, Chapter 11, entitled Yay Helps. He didn't know what to do. UA's principal appearing suddenly in his hospital room and calling him and Dr. Maisie out on their lie didn't really fit into any scenario that he'd thought over. So he freezes up, just staring at the short form of his school's principal. Midoriya. Sorry, allow me to introduce myself. Am I a mouse, a bear, a dog? I'm the principal, and before we continue with our prior topic, allow me to thank you as well as apologize for everything that happened at the USJ. The other students all talked about how you helped them and worked to keep everyone safe. With that, the rodent of a pro hero had bowed deeply toward Izuku. He honestly felt so lost. What was happening? He kind of feels like his head had been plunged underwater, or like there was a glass bubble separating him from everyone else. He's observing, but nothing's clicking. It almost reminds him of when he would get cornered at school, pinned down and beaten. The blows had felt muffled, the pain not registering, their hateful and painfully true words falling on deaf ears, leaving only vague recollections of the tones used. That's not what's happening here. He's not being hurt, and he can hear, even if everything feels out of focus. How can he hear again? How can he think? Everything feels muffled, like cotton stuffed in his ears and his mind. Who can help before he misses something important? Because even while muffled, Izuku knows in the back of his mind what the appearance of his principal here in the hospital room asking dangerous questions means. It means the doors are getting locked, and the walls are closing in. Who can help him? He slowly glances over at his neighbors, but they're both already watching him with expressions Izuku couldn't accurately describe. Maybe he could have understood the caring and concerned gazes another time, but Izuku didn't think that he would recognize emotions on a face if they slapped him upside the head right now. What were they doing? He turns to look at the weighted, bowed form of his principal. Right. He was being asked questions. What was the question again? Shoot, it was... Oh, it wasn't a question, not anymore. His brain finally takes back in the image of his still bowed principal. Calming, he hopes they didn't notice how out of it Izuku was feeling. He already hears how slow and stupid he is due to being underdeveloped, as all the quirkless people supposedly are from bullies. He didn't want to hear the same from his new school. Especially not in a hospital, with little to no clear exit path, in case things were to turn ugly. Pull it together, Izuku. Respond to Nezu. He's been bowing for forever. Speak. It's no problem, Principal. Really. Though, could I ask, is everyone okay? The words feel like trying to speak around a full mouth, but they slowly become easier as he speaks. Even if he was suddenly distracted by a speck of dust reflecting the sunlight from the window beside Eraser, partway through speaking, and had to drag his attention back again to finish his sentence. No one else in the room acknowledges the stumbling words and the prolonged pause partway through, so Izuku assumes that it wasn't too obvious. Finally, Nezu straightens from his bow, and his face brightens in a way that seems friendly but also doesn't look right on the rodent's face. Izuku notices that, even when smiling widely, the principal never once shows the fanged teeth that Izuku assumes he has. He can't help but wonder what caused that. Who caused that? Did his face scar ache some mornings like Izuku's did? Did he fear showing his fangs in case others used things outside of his control to belittle and hurt him? But Nezu isn't his to pry into, so he leaves it, shoving the theories in the corner of his mind where he doesn't have to see them. Izuku knows that is what he would want others to do if they wanted to pry about his drama. Ah, yes, your classmates and the pro-heroes who were there are all okay now. Do you have any other questions before I ask my own? He really would prefer he didn't get asked any questions by Nezu. He knows how smart his school's principal is, and Izuku's still trying to fight off the haze he feels looming behind his eyes, though it's not as bad as it was. He can think mostly clearly now, which is why a thought occurs to him. Not really, though how can you ask me questions without my aunt present? I would rather wait for her to be here. He notices a light spark in Nezu's black eyes. Great. And please note with how much Izuku means that was sarcasm. Just what he needs, an oversized rodent with trauma and one of the smartest beings in the world interested in him. Well, when accepting your offer to study at UA, you and your guardian had agreed that all matters dealing with the school, or emergencies or lack of presence of another guardian, your homeroom teacher, has the legal authority and obligation to act as your guardian. Well, fuck. That's what he gets for not reading through all the paperwork, like he usually would, especially after almost signing a form which was 100% not in his favor when he was younger. You would think Izuku would have learned his lesson after one close call. But no, apparently not. Which means he will be acting as your guardian for now, as all attempts to contact your other guardian have been not successful. The rodent pauses, seeming to be observing his neighbor now more than Izuku himself. When Izuku turns himself to look at his neighbors, they haven't really changed much from the last time he glanced at them to help center himself, though he notices they seem to have slightly different facial expressions. Maybe something akin to hope, or maybe worry. Is that okay with you, Midoriya? Not like he had much of a choice. He could see the corner he had been easily backed into. It wasn't hard to see. Yes. Shota knows that Midori is uncomfortable and doesn't want to be forced to answer his boss's questions, but he also knows that these questions need answered, and their theories proven or disproven as soon as possible, and this is the ideal situation. He had been 1 second away from telling them to call it all off when the kid completely shut down at the presence of Nezu, but thankfully it hadn't come to that, and the kid had managed to pull himself together enough to respond, even if the words had been mumbled, and there was a lot of stuttering and some odd pauses partway through. Shota hates that they need to go to such measures in order to finally get the answers they need in order to actually take any legal action and make sure his kid was safe. This is for the better. Even if using the kid's missing guardians against him makes Shota feel immensely guilty and slightly nauseous, it needs to be done. A sentiment he knows Hizashi shares if the slight glance between them were anything to go by, as well as the squeezing of Shota's hand. Nezu clears his throat, drawing Shota's attention again. Where did Dr. Maisie take you? Flashes of his little neighbors retreating back come back to Shota. Letting Midori walk out of their shared hospital room with the unknown and suspicious doctor was something he would have never allowed if he wasn't injured. The two had managed to slip away from him and Zashi before they could even think to physically halt the doctor from taking Midori anywhere, or for any test without their consent and supervision. The thought of everything that could have gone horribly wrong and the ways that his teen could have been hurt is still leaving Shota on edge, even with the kid sitting not even 5 feet from him. He shakes the haunting images from his mind and instead focuses on the teen here and now, safe with him, and hopefully this song and dance of not knowing will soon be over. Hopefully they won't have to see him through panes of glass every night anymore. They never actually talked it out officially, but Zashi had mentioned on multiple occasions that their office was never used and could easily be made into a spare bedroom. Shota hopes this goes well. I was walked to a room for a follow-up test. It wasn't anything major, and Dr. Maisie was great while doing it. His boss's ear twitches toward the closed door before Nezu just gives his neighbor a pointed look and sighing. We all know that's not true, Midoriya. Please just tell us where you were and why. The silence stretches the seconds counting by like watching paint dry, and Shota worries that the kid has fallen back into full disassociation like before. Thankfully, after a couple of seconds, Shota can see the kid mumbling silently under his breath and dark green eyes flicking around the room. Please, Midoriya. We just want to help, and we can't do that if we are left completely in the dark. I'm sure you can understand. The kid continues to deliberate for a couple more seconds before seeming to set his jaw and huff out a frustrated breath. Fine. I was visiting some family who I didn't know were here until I woke up earlier today. Happy? They had only answered one question so far, and already the kid was agitated, looked ready to bite and claw anyone who got close enough to reach. Thankfully, his boss isn't stupid enough to try and get closer. If anything, Shota thinks Nezu takes a step back from his little green neighbor. Thank you. Would you like to ask me a question, or me ask you another one? Give and take, allowing Midori some control over the conversation as well as the situation in general. You ask me. The teen eventually decides on, again subjecting them to long moments of pure silence and tension, though seemingly no more major disassociation like before. Shota counts it as small blessings in a situation literally born from hell in his humble opinion. Thank you. Who exactly were you visiting? The answer seemingly comes easier to a student than before. My aunt, cousin, and her parents. Her parents were the only ones who got hurt. Hinto and Fuwa were just busy watching over them. So that explains why Seisan and Midori's cousin weren't answering their phones, though not why all of his emergency contacts hadn't responded. It's also concerning that the couple seemingly had been attacked together badly enough to be in the hospital. Shota will have to remember to look into that and make sure it's nothing that could end with Midori being targeted as well. Maybe, and this is a long shot maybe, but maybe Seisan wasn't absolutely terrible and would abandon Midori, hurt and alone in a hospital for days after a huge villain attack. It's both a relief and a pain. Again, Nezu gives Midori the opportunity to ask them questions, though again the kid just gestures for his boss to carry on. For a second, Nezu hesitates and Shota braces himself. Are you safe at home, Midoriya? It's like all the warmth and oxygen got sucked out of the room all at once. The neutral but uncomfortable expression on Midori's face twists into a deep glare, and his back straightens, almost making it look like Midoriya is looming over Nezu similarly to how a vulture looms over a dead or dying prey. Of course I am. Shota has never heard the teen use such a voice. It's icy and chipped, promising violence if someone keeps pressing. Thankfully, his boss seems to understand and backs off, stating that it's just the standard questioning when a minor's emergency contacts cannot be contacted, and the kid calms down a bit, the threatening aura fading away again. Who all lives with you? I heard about a cousin, but I never found out if he lives with you or just nearby. The kid stays silent, seemingly trying to find a double meaning in Nezu's question, but after a second states that his cousin recently had moved out, so it's just him and his aunt. Odd how they only ever saw Midori from their kitchen window. Nezu's ear twitches toward the room's closed door, his face twitching downward into a slight frown. A person probably wouldn't even notice if they weren't like Shota, and had had a multitude of years of experience reading Nezu's expressions. So you live with just your aunt, then? Yes. Again, Shota watches Nezu's ear twitch toward the door. The rat lets out a weary sigh. Midoriya, you're not telling the truth. A creepy theory begins to form in Shota's mind, and he resists the urge to pull out his phone right then to confirm. Could you please tell me who you actually live with? His kid looks pale. Shota can't help but want to snarl at his boss for making the kid look so distressed, but this has to happen. They need to know. At least the kid still seemed aware, albeit pissed off and defensive, but definitely not a lifeless doll like before. Izashi squeezes Shota's hand, seemingly sensing Shota's protective mood. Why the fuck do you even care, Nezu? Oh, the kid did not like all the prying. Not that Shota can really blame him. He would probably react similarly, or would have already left if Nezu started asking these questions, let alone if he fit into the statistics and reality of the quirkless experience in their society today. I'm quirkless. You know that. I know you do. So why do you care about how safe I am, or who and where I live? Suddenly, his hand is let free from the vice grip Shota had started to ignore, Zashi taking a couple steps toward Midori in a small, calming smile, calming hand gestures, all that he is equipped with. Little listener, we don't care that you're quirkless. That doesn't make you any less deserving of our care, concern, and support. We want to help you. Please trust us. There goes Shota's amazing husband. He loves watching the blonde interact with kids. How gentle and caring he is has always made him melt. Kind of reminds him of how they first met. That same care and love helped him in high school. Thankfully, it seems, not even Midori, who had obvious trust issues, can resist his husband's soothing tones, though it doesn't seem to actually calm the kid down, more so confuse him if the furrowed brows and rapidly moving but silent lips are anything to go by. They all wait for the kid to respond. I don't understand why you guys care. You shouldn't care. It's like a playful punch that accidentally connects for real and knocks all the air out of your lungs. The kid, his brilliant and genius kid, doesn't understand why anyone would care about him. Izuku didn't understand. Why were they all acting like it was normal for them to care about him? He's quirkless, a deku, useless, something that should have died the day that he was diagnosed, whose mom didn't even see a reason to stick around or love him. His dad left without a backwards glance. Why were these strangers, who haven't even known him for a year in some of their cases, trying to protect him? He hates the part of him that wants to let them. He wants to crush it. He didn't need them. He didn't want them to leave him after they realize how much of a useless dead weight he is on every life that he enters. He suddenly remembers Yae, who had gotten married months ago. She had a life similar to Izuku's. Her dad was abusive, her mom had left, and she tried to drown herself when she was 13 after being sexually assaulted by a friend of her dad's. But even after being tortured by the quirked part of their society for years, she had still met her husband, a quirked individual, and had learned to trust, learned to love and care for someone from a group who had caused her so much pain. Yae is happy. Her and her husband come to the quirky cafe every couple of weeks. They're always smiling and offering support to each other. Yae trusted a quirked person. Yae was okay. She is safe and cared for. Maybe Izuku could be too. He takes a deep breath. There's no going back. He closes his eyes and takes a leap of faith. Hopefully his neighbors will catch him. I live by myself. Hinto's my boss, though she's like an older sister to me. Silence. He's about to get up and leave, good exit plans be damned, when suddenly there's arms wrapped around him. 2 pairs. He looks up and all he can see are the tangled mess of present Mike and Eraser holding him close. They were there. They were hugging him. They knew that he was quirkless and they were still hugging him. Maybe things will be okay. Though he can already feel the smack that he's going to get from one of the Sei cousins for taking such a risk and completely blowing his cover and risking his dream. He forgot how nice hugs were. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 11 of See You in the Morning. Chapter 12 will be next. We're nearing the end of this fic. I hope you guys are still enjoying it. As always, thank you so much for listening.